The dawn of the internet and specifically social media brought a whole new wave of unthinkable crimes to our doorsteps. Starting with the internet's first serial killer, John Edward Robinson, and continuing on with burglars using social media to scope victims' homes, child predators using chat rooms or other forms of social media to manipulate and lure victims, or the hundreds of murders being linked to the website Craigslist. The subject of today's story is one of many criminals who used Craigslist in order to find and lure their victims. This is a brief history of Brady Oestrike, one of many called the Craigslist Killer. As always, this episode of A Brief History contains graphic content and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Today, we are building the Wyoming-Michigan home of Brady Oestrike, based on exterior photos as well as references from the sale of the home in 2015. Brady Oestrike was born in 1982 to parents Christine and Richard Oestrike. While we don't know a lot about his childhood, what we do know is that his father said he had a relatively normal one. The Oestrikes were a conservative Christian household, and Brady was raised as such, becoming very involved with his church, and even spent time going on mission trips to Haiti and the Ukraine. Brady's half-sister would later describe him as a generous person who was willing to open his home to anyone in need, and was frequently taken advantage of by women who used his kind and generous nature against him. Brady was also described by his family as loving medieval history, computer games, Dungeons and Dragons, and LARPing. Brady frequently attended the local Renaissance fair as well as reenactments, leading the family to believe the whips, chains, and weapons found around his house were merely him showing an appreciation for his interest in medieval battle. Though Brady was also known to carry at least 2 guns with him at any given time. In his early 20s, Brady had a 7-year relationship with a woman who would go on to be his fiancée. Due to his apparent generous nature, it's alleged that the woman took advantage of him, emptied his bank accounts and 401k, and was frequently sent jewelry, including a $30,000 diamond and sapphire ring. Some sources claim the couple were married and divorced quickly, while others claim the fiancé left Brady just a month before the wedding was scheduled. Could this have been a catalyst for Brady's future? Prior to the murders Brady would later be involved with, he had 2 roommates living at 2432 Taft Avenue in Wyoming, Michigan. While both roommates seemed to be fond of Brady, they pointed out numerous red flags about him after his crimes came to light. One time in the home, Brady accidentally discharged a Desert Eagle .50 caliber handgun while waving it around, with the bullet passing through the wall and into the alternator of one of his roommate's cars. Later, when the roommate asked Brady what he would have done if he had accidentally shot one of them, he responded by saying he would have shot the other roommate as well, claimed they went crazy and was simply acting in self-defense. The roommates were rightfully scared and eventually moved out, and Brady's behavior became increasingly erratic and concerning, with Brady not showering, leaving empty food containers strewn about the home, peeing in bottles that he would then leave around his computer area, and setting up tiny cameras throughout his home inside of birdhouses to supposedly counteract his paranoia. Brady also frequented the site of Craigslist, where he used the alias Jote Amos, which meant Jack of all trades, a master of some. In July of 2014, under his Craigslist alias, Brady made contact with a couple. Brooke Slocum, a pregnant 18-year-old, and her boyfriend, 25-year-old Charles Openier. The couple were offering sex for money, and Brady found an opportunity. The couple agreed to meet up with him, and they planned to meet at Gezin Park in Wyoming, Michigan on July 12, 2014. Once at the park, Brady changed his tune and attacked Charles, decapitating him in the park. Brady hid Charles's body under a tree and took Brooke back to his home. Over the next 5 days, Brooke Slocum was tortured and eventually strangled to death by Brady Oestrike. During the time Brady was holding Brooke captive, police had found the body of her boyfriend Charles, and eventually traced the Craigslist contact back to Brady. Police kept the home under surveillance, unaware to the horrors that had already been perpetrated in the house. On the evening of July 17, 2014, Brady put Brooke's body into the trunk of his car, backed out of his driveway, and engaged the police in a high-speed chase, which eventually ended in Brady crashing the car and finally committing suicide by shooting himself behind the wheel of the car. After the death of Brady Oestrike, police found Brooke's body in the trunk of the car, as well as full video evidence of what had happened to her over the previous 5 days. Police believed that Brady had seen the news reports of Charles' body being found and had panicked and felt forced to dispose of the remaining evidence he had. Brooke Slocum's father later stated he was aware of what his daughter and her boyfriend would do online for money, saying she was desperate to keep Charles around and would do anything so he didn't leave her. It was also said that Brooke wrote letters to her unborn child explaining why she had met men for money, stating that she just wanted to feel loved. There is truly no form of justice that can assist in the feelings of loss and grief suffered by families of victims. But to have someone commit such a heinous act and then take their own life to avoid being punished for their crimes is a different level. Brooke Slocum's family did begin a charity after her death to help teens and young women at risk called Brooke's Angels. The charity is now defunct but seemed to work closely with War International, a Michigan-based 501c3 charitable organization to help women at risk and empower survivors. A link to donate to War International is in the description box down below. Thank you for joining me for this episode of A Brief History. Thank you to my patrons who support this series. You are much appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.